Good morning, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to Beware Spoilers. I am Adam. I woke up early this morning to watch the finale of Andor. I was curious about what's it called? About how the show was going to end. I'm tired today. Well, that happens when you get up at 6:30 to go to the bathroom, and then you're like, fuck, well, now I'm up. Might as well just watch Andor. That was really what it was more, But anyway, if you want to support the show, go to multipleworldproductions.com/Black Friday, and you can pick up free copies of all of my past books on Kindle, completely for free, totally free, and that's all available there. So Swan Song, Duet the Muses, In the End, Temple Outside Time, Echo Alpha, and Our Past Does Not Define Us. At the bottom of the page, what really helps on top of that is if you go down and pre-order Echo Delta Part 1, which comes out on Friday, or We Are Better Than Our Worst Instincts, which comes out on, that comes out on June 11th, I want to say. I don't remember the exact date, but it's mid-June. If you go on there and pre-order either of those, that helps out a lot too. So again, that's multipleworldproductions.com/Black Friday, and that is through the end of the day this Saturday. After that, they will no longer be free, because you can only do 5 days of the free book promotion on Kindle. So, all of them, totally free, no strings attached. You can add them to your library, very easy. So Andor. Now, last night I watched A New Hope in prep for Andor. Because here's the thing, Andor is still a prequel to, Rogue One. So because it's a prequel to Rogue One, it is also a prequel to A New Hope. Sounds like I'm talking in circles. There's a point to this. But I think if there's one thing that I would say, even the Star Wars movies that came after, I would say even, I would say to an extent, it is kind of, the ferocity of the Empire, like on a galactic scale, is kind of showcased in A New Hope. Like, we get this sense that the galaxy wants to, the galaxy should be in fear of the Empire. Because, the Empire is this giant, tyrannical organization. And then we also get the sense that, that they're spread thin, like they're spread wide across the galaxy, not spread thin, they're spread out across the galaxy, and they rule with an iron fist, and I think we get that there. I think that if there's any show or movie or anything that has come after Star Wars that really nailed not just the aesthetic, but the feel of the politics and the feel of just how it feels in A New Hope, I think it's Andor. This feels the most authentically like the first movie of anything that has come since, I think. Maybe Empire has a little bit of that too. But in Empire, what the Empire is doing is very focused on, specifically, this group of rebels. Like, in this case, tracking down Han and Leia and the Millennium Falcon. And I think it's worth noting that, like, that difference, like, the fact that it becomes so personal after that first one. Like, in the first one, Vader and the Empire at large, and Tarkin and all that, their motivation is not We got to find these people specifically. It is, we are the Empire, we need to show we are still in control. When it comes to the next, like, in Empire and in, and in Return of the Jedi, it's just shrunk so much where it feels like it's directly related to them. And it feels kind of strange. But whatever. For the finale, as last week kind of set up, everyone is converging on Ferrex for the funeral of Cassian's mother, who has passed on, and he is now there to, he has gone back to Ferrex, but Deidre has also come to Ferrex and all of that. Now, my biggest complaint about the finale is that so many of the other plots just kind of die, I guess would be the right way, because it's not really, like, the whole thing with Mon Mothma and the money is kind of hand-woven away, and I'm not exactly a huge fan of that. Like it's smart the way she does it, where it's her and her husband, and she knows the driver is spying on them, so she's like, oh, you're gambling again. Go back, if you want to go gamble, go to Canto Bight. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I mean, no one likes Canto Bight. But cool, they mentioned it. It's always interesting when they mention something from the sequels in these things. But, so she's like, and you're here on Coruscant gambling. And the driver takes that to ISB and is like, oh, okay, that's where the money's going. Her husband's gambling again. He's got a gambling problem, that's where the money's going. And ISB is like, alright, fair enough. Good day. And I feel like that's a little too hand-wavy to resolve the whole money situation that Mon Mothma is dealing with. It doesn't feel like a good way to resolve the plot. And that's her entire role in the episode. And then there is the other thing that happens with, what's her name? With, who was the other subplot that was like, this is conveniently wrapped up? Oh, with, whatever his name is, the attack on the Imperial base by the rebels, but they knew, what the Empire knew, and that whole thing. It's like, it's very quickly done, like, okay, they attacked, they're all dead, ta-da. Like, I feel like, considering we're dealing with a duology, for lack of a better word, like, that's what we're dealing with here. It's going to be a duology, 2 seasons, that's it. And because that's what we are handling and what we have to do, I feel like they really should have kind of set up more of what season 2 is going to be in this episode. I think there's a chance we get into more. I mean, I love that Tumblr post, the Glup Shitto. Like, I feel like we're going to get into Glup Shitto territory next year, in the next season, where it's like, look, here's all these characters, like, don't be surprised if, Rey shows up, not Rey, Jyn Erso shows up. Don't be surprised if Thrawn shows up. Don't be surprised if, just name them. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Why? Like, I don't know. And it was kind of like The Mandalorian in that way. Like, the season 1 of The Mandalorian didn't have any characters or anything that really tied it to the rest of the universe. I mean, they go to Tatooine in the 1 episode, but basically everything else is kind of original to that show until you get to the finale and you're talking about, and you see, what's his name, Moff Gideon with the Darksaber. Until that point, it's all kind of just the same. It's all kind of just based on original trilogy. Like, it's all based, not the original trilogy, it's all kind of new stuff. And then season 2, we get into, here's Cobb Vanth, here is Bo-Katan, here is, and it's just like, here's Boba Fett, here, like, okay, we get it. Like, I don't need to see all of this. It's like the show that launched 1,000 spin-offs. Like, I don't need all of that. And I think that we run that risk in season 2 of this, based on where this one ends off, and based on how well received this one is being. I love the whole speech that his mother gives from beyond the grave to kind of incite the rebellion. It is such a great speech, and that actress, whose name I should have looked up before I did this, does such a great job of delivering it with gravitas and all of that. It is so worth. It is so excellently laid out and done. I just wish that the subplots were either directed that we're going to continue this in the future, or we're wrapping this up here. Or something to look forward, because that's the thing, is they definitely think that they destroyed the rebellion, ISB. They definitely think, alright, we have done it, it's done. And I think that Saw made the right decision. I think that's a big thing that's going to go into next year, is Saw made the right decision, and now we got to see, how he does with that. I mean, I think Saw was really the only character. I mean, Saw and Yularen were the only two who were in anything else who were in this. I mean, and Cassian, obviously. And that one guy who was in the background of one scene in Rogue One, who was in jail with him. But it's like the whole thing with the prison and what they're doing with and what happened with the prison, where it's they're building stuff and they're never letting people out. That never comes. What are they going to do about that? That never comes to pass. And then I think the bigger story is, how does this develop into what's it called? Beyond this point, where do we start developing into what we know about the rebellion? Where do we get into the idea of Fulcrum and all of that, from Rebels? And I mean, next season, do we see Hera Syndulla? Do we see Ahsoka? I mean, there are so many things in play for next season that I think we have to. I think that, if we're only doing 2 seasons, I think next season we're going to get to Mandalorian Season 2 territory. I think that that's definitely where this is going. Where it's especially considering, there's a post-credit tag, which I think is simultaneously a great tag and a not great tag at the same time. Because all it is the reveal of where what the parts they're using, what they were making in the prison were being used for. And it's but it has to be the Death Star. We know it's the Death Star. And I think it works, that it's the season ends and Andor goes off with Luthen, and Luthen's and he's look, just, if you're going to kill me, just kill me. Or take me, somewhere else. And we know he doesn't get killed. And then for it to end on the shot of the Death Star without the lens put in yet, but the lens still under construction, I think it's really powerful imagery, especially considering that we know Andor's fate. We know that he is going to die on Scarif when the Death Star blows up the planet. I just feel like it would have been better, I just feel like the thing is, too, it's not really a reveal. That's the big problem I have with that ending, is that it's nothing new. Most people had figured out that was going to the Death Star, and showing that it's going to the Death Star doesn't add anything where it's he was building what was going to inevitably kill him, yes, but I don't think that's necessarily a huge... I don't know if jump in logic is the right word, but I think most people who watched the episode were oh, okay, I understand what's going on here. So it feels like a wasted opportunity. I feel like the show would have been better served if there was a tag or something that kind of set up the next season a little bit. Because this kind of works as kind of a self-contained thing, where it's he gets brought back by Luthen, they go to the rebellion, he works for the rebellion. Alright, moving on. You don't need a season 2. And I feel like that, I've had this criticism before with things, not with Star Wars, though. I had this criticism with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where it's the problem with Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the show is fantastic. I mean, I mean, the flag smashes aren't great. I love aspects of the show. But at the end of the day, we end Endgame with Sam being given the shield. And we start New World Order, which is going to be his next appearance, with him as Captain America. Considering the show starts with him giving up the shield and then getting the shield back and his new suit, it's like, do we really necessarily need this entire show designed to show him go through this? And it's like, well, the show is entirely skippable then. And I feel like that's kind of the issue here, where it's like, it's a great show, and it does a lot to really prove itself and give itself a good... You know who else would show up? Alden Ehrenreich could show up. That would be really fucking dumb, but so would him being tied to Enfy's nest. Anyway, making the show that disposable is not really helpful to get people to watch, where it's like, I think that's kind of a problem with an interquel, where an interquel is going to fill that role, where it's like, look, we know where the story starts and we know where it ends, and we know this wasn't important enough to mention in the second part, so moving on from there, what are we going to do? But yeah, it would be interesting to see how this kind of lines up with going into season 2. I just love that, he went back to rescue Bix. And the other thing, I think him rescuing Bix is great. And I also think that Cyril rescuing Deidre is also a great moment. During the rebellion, now that the rebellion has been... this is the Lexington and Concord of the Galactic Civil War, is the Battle of Ferrix. And I think that, him... everyone kind of converging on Ferrix and this giant revolt happening and the Empire having this fight and all of that, it's all really cool stuff. And then when you get to... Deidre's almost killed by the rebels. But Cyril saves her and pulls her into another place. And there's this moment where she's just terrified. The fear of God has been put into her because she's almost killed by the rebels. And it's just such a great moment for her to, because the thing is, we see her the whole time. We never see her show really any emotion over the course of 12 episodes until then. And the only emotion that we see her experience is just pure, unadulterated fear in the face of what should have been certain death, but Cyril saved her. And I think that at the end of the day, giving Cyril that role does kind of give him a point to be in the show, because Deidre going forward is still going to want Cassian. That's the thing, is that she's going to still want Cassian. And I'm interested to see where that goes. That's something I'm interested to see where it goes in season 2. But, I don't know how we really get into Mon Mothma's story. Do we have to do the fall of Mon Mothma, I would think. What makes her leave and then go to, what makes her give up her family and all of that. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to see her husband move to a more overtly antagonistic role, because we know he's an Imperial sympathizer, but I think that moving him into a more antagonistic role overtly, where he's like, look, I am, she's accusing me of this, and then ISB is going to come and be like, well, why are you gambling, on Coruscant, where are they gambling? And that's going to turn him and be like, well, why the fuck did she lie about that? And he's going to uncover where the money's going. And that's going to unravel her whole thing, I feel like. This lie was convenient to end this plot, but it's going to be the string that gets pulled that's going to unravel her entire thing. But Andor was great. I loved Andor. I did not think I was going to like it, but it was fantastic. I just wish the finale was just a little stronger. But if the only issue with the show is that its finale is not as good as its best episodes, which in this case, is a pretty high mark to hit, I mean, that's a pretty good show right there. And that's not something to complain about. But yeah, we will wrap up there for today. So tomorrow we will be doing the Santa Clauses episode 3, because I hate myself. It's only a half hour though. That's, I think, the saving grace of that show is that it's only a half hour. And then the Fablemans will either be today or Friday, and I think Friday is the next Marvel Studios thing, and it's the epilogue for Phase 4, being the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. So we'll wrap up there for today, and until our next episode, whenever that may be, have a great rest of your week.